Welcome to another episode of Just More Fix. This is James. With me in this episode is Lacey.
Hey.
You can find us online at justmorefix.com or on Twitter at justmorefix. If you like us, you can support us at Patreon, and you can give us a rating and a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you find us at. In this episode, we're going to have another gaming roundtable. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix.
I'm Chris from All Things Good and Nerdy, a proud member of the Good and Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of the individual hosts. Make sure you check out all the other great podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of Just More Fix. Couple quick announcements before we get things rolling today. First off, you may have noticed that we didn't have an episode last week, and that is because we had a lot of stuff going on. Lacey went up north to Michigan for some wedding stuff and different things for her family up there, and I went backpacking through southern Indiana, and because of that and dehydration and exhaustion, I didn't get things edited and put out. So our editing and production team is a team of one.
And it's not me.
True. I realized that if I did not work in EMS, I'm not sure I would be able to maintain the production schedule that we have set. It is a little ambitious once a week, and it's just me doing it. But thankfully, I work in a job where you don't do a whole lot. So it allows me some free time to do editing and whatever, and all the podcast production. With all of that, our release schedule for the Night Witches shouldn't be affected by that. So this coming Friday, I believe it is, you guys should be getting another installment of Night Witches, and we have recorded our third session, and that one was really good and pretty dark, and some badness has truly happened. And I guess more badness is the more correct way to put that. And that one will probably break up into 3 or 4 episodes. That was a pretty lengthy session. So things are really heating up, and it's lots of fun. So check that out. You can find that
a really good time
in the regular feed of things.
We should play it more often.
Night Witches. I think
this actual play may go on to infinitude.
Well, the war has to end at some point, so it can't go on forever. But I do
the hell you say the war will go on forever.
I like the fact that it's only once a month that we do this. It sort of gives me time to recharge my creative batteries for that style of game, and I'm not getting tired or burn out of it in any way whatsoever because I feel like things are stretched out enough. There's a lot of anticipation and build up for things. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the game. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully if you guys are checking it out, you guys enjoy it. If not, definitely check it out. The first session was a little slow, but that's because it's training and we're setting up the game. But then things start to spiral out of control as soon as you guys meet the front, and things get very bad very quickly. Lots of fun, good time. So more of that coming to you guys. Second announcement is we are doing our second Indie RPG Day at Game in Terre Haute on South 7th. So if you guys are going to be in the Terre Haute area on June 16th from 5 to 9, we will be at the game store on South 7th running games. This time I think we have 7th Sea is up, Bedlam Hall, and Numenera, I think, are the 3 games that we're bringing there. Kurt was going to bring Puppet Land, but he has other commitments, so he can't be there. So like I said, 7th Sea, Bedlam Hall, and Numenera, so that should be a good time there. So I think that's all the announcements I have for today, but definitely come and check it out. We had a great time with the people that came out last time. Lots of good feedback and lots of good games. So we introduced some people to Lamentations of the Flame Princess that were already familiar with. They were already D&D players, and then Kurt ran a modified version of the Quiet Year, which is really cool to see it played with sort of a game master involved with it. It was a lot of fun and cool. I had a good time watching you guys play.
It was good. It was probably the best game of Quiet Year that I've played.
Yeah.
I liked having the game master, and then he added some kind of subtle little quirks and fun stuff.
More props and
kind of
some direction.
The setting a little bit different. I liked it.
I think
it was a really good time. And
Kurt
you never know
did
with strangers too.
That's true.
Like
that's true.
how things are going to go.
The game was you had a good group at the table, and sometimes I think with those games that are very hands-off and no GM style, they can benefit from just a little bit of direction. And when I say Kurt was GMing it, it really wasn't it was like he was a spectator there watching you guys play, and he would
like
interject some things.
Kind of position, more than like, mastery. I guess,
Yeah. I think moderator was probably the exact right word for that, but it was really cool to watch. I enjoyed watching you guys, and like most things, it's the apocalypse. It took a pretty dark turn pretty fast.
It escalated quickly.
There was some tragedy and awesomeness, so it was a good time. If you guys are in the area, in the Terre Haute area, though, come on out on Free RPG Day with us and come play some games and have a good time.
And if you're not in our area, stop by your wonderful local gaming store, wherever it may be, and see if they have some free products that you can partake in.
Lots of good stuff in there this year. It looks like more Lamentations of the Flame Princess is in there. Unknown Armies is in there. Numenera. I'm sure there's D&D and Pathfinder stuff in there. It always is. But there's
a ton.
There's a lot of good games in there.
What is the website? freerpgday.com.
There you go.
That is what it is.
So you can see what the lineup is there for this year at freerpgday.com. And there are a couple different levels to what the game stores get. So you may want to get to your gaming store early and often as we vote in Illinois. And there are limited supply of certain products that are in the Free RPG Day stuff. I guess a couple other things is a couple Kickstarters that we found that were pretty cool. I know it's already over, but Starcrossed ended, and I'm excited about that. I've got the preliminary kind of beta of it, where it's not the finalized version, but it looks pretty fun to try and do. It's a kind of a modified version of Dread with two people, where you play two characters who are in love but can't be together for some reason. So whether that's Romeo and Juliet, one of the versions that I heard the creator talk about was a scientist on some faraway planet and the AI on the planet, and it was time for him to rotate home, but he had fallen in love with his AI, so he had to rotate home and couldn't stay there. And that's kind of intense and interesting and deep, but it uses a Jenga tower just like Dread does. And I guess when the tower comes down, I think that means that your relationship culminates, which it's not supposed to. And you can only talk when you're touching the tower, which adds another level of suspense to it, so that when you're talking to the other person, you have to have a hand on the Jenga tower.
It's more risky the further you go.
Exactly. It's like, that's an awesome mechanic. In addition to that, ending June 5th, so the day after you guys are getting this, so hopefully you see it, and we'll tweet it out here. But No Thank You Evil, which is a great game that we're a big fan of, that is from Monty Cook Studios, Monty Cook Productions.
I think it's Productions.
Either way.
I mean, you could just say
it's from the people at Monty Cook.
Talking about.
But it is a RPG designed to introduce younger kids to RPGs, and it's a lot of fun. And they are kickstarting a second production of it,
a second print.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. And the game is already done. They're just trying to fund another print of it, and along with it comes some extra adventures and some other things. And in addition to that, we reviewed the game some time ago because we enjoyed it quite a bit. But we are, I think, going to try and get our 3 kids up here and have them review it with us and see how that goes, because they're 12, 8, and 7, and try and herd the cats into reviewing the game. I think that might be worth it, because there's a lot of people that talk about they want games for their kids, but I think it would be interesting to have them actually express why they like it and think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a lot easier now that you have separate channels of sound that you can edit.
Yes, this is very true.
So that'll be helpful.
It's very true. Very true. Right on. Well, I think that's the end of our announcements. No, I guess I got one more. You guys may have heard that we've been working on a poison table and a trauma tool, and the trauma tool is basically done. It just needs to be formatted and kind of put together and sized correctly, and that will be going up on our Patreon within the next couple weeks as a finished product. So it'll be 2 pieces. It will be a random roll table that involves trauma stuff, and then there will be a die drop table on it as well, depending on which version of it you want to use, or both, because they are going to be awesome.
I'm pretty excited about it because it's the first GM thing like I've ever made.
Right. So really, it just comes down to all the hard part of it is. Actually, I really think the easy part of it is done. The production of it, getting things sized right and put where they need to go. Is it 1 page? Is it 2 pages? How does it all work? That's what I'm going to be in the process of working on in the next week or so. So that'll be coming out to you guys on Patreon just as soon as I get it done. In addition to that, as soon as that one is done, we will start production on the Poison one from the episode a couple weeks ago to get that one out to you guys. And I think that is all the announcements. That took a long time.
It's a lot of announcements.
True story. Although not all of them are, but there's just a lot of awesome stuff going on in gaming right now. I guess with that, we'll start the round table. So how about we just start off with gaming? Are there any games that you have been playing here recently? Whether that's board or role-playing or console?
Playing recently?
Or running or any of it?
Well, we just played Mad City, which is a board game.
Yeah.
And actually, I kind of really like it because it's timed, and I find like timed games that are also kind of a mix of strategy to be interesting.
I like it because I'm wicked good at spatial reasoning strategy games.
I'm not that good at
especially when it's timed. I'm like, bam, 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 bam. The colors go together. Boom.
I still have a really good time doing it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun game, and I enjoy it. I also enjoy it because I'm good at it, so it makes it easier.
If you haven't played it, you get 9 tiles that you have to put in a square within, I think it's 1 minute. There's like a little sand timer that you flip over, and you have to try and organize your buildings together with the tiles.
It's sort of like SimCity. There's a residential area, a commercial area, and a industrial area, and you have to get them put together to get
There's a few added things like making the best road and the most parks or whatever. But anyway, so you get scoring based on your ability to put together things in a way that makes sense. But there's a little bit of strategy too, because you only have this limited amount of time and you want to get these things together. But if you get more than a set number, you don't get any extra points for it. So then you have to also try and think about like how you want to divide things to try and maximize points. But at the same time, just the basic of it is very simple. So even our 7 and 8 year old are playing and putting together the tiles and just trying to get them together before a minute is up.
And they're competitive too. It's kind of interesting because there's 5 of us playing that game. So me, you, and Isaiah are kind of competitive in one realm of scoring, and there are 2 younger ones. They're very close together and sort of competitive in their own way with Isaiah as well in their scoring. So it's kind of interesting because we're all playing this game and having fun, but it's like a couple levels of competition. Like the sibling rivalry and, whatnot. So it's a good time. And it's something that I don't know that many games do that kind of where you can compete on multiple levels that way.
Right.
What's the one with the tree where you lay the cards out for the tree? Kodama?
I think Kodama is the regular, the one with the tree. But then there's the one where you make the paths, and that one's called something else, but I can't remember. But it's got the same character in it. It's by Indie.
Indie Board and Card.
I believe that's what it is called. Yes.
So those are. I guess we haven't played those in a couple weeks, a couple months, or whatever. Those are a lot of fun. I guess the most recent thing that I've played, I guess if we're talking about board games and that kind of stuff, is Dust. Me and Isaiah have been playing Dust 1947 again. The Mythos faction just came out, so I bought the starter box for the Mythos, and he has been spanking my evil cultists into oblivion pretty handily with his Axis German army. And let's just say that, ill-equipped cultists with World War II weaponry against the diesel punk Axis forces don't do very well. And we'll just leave it at that. But it's been fun. It's been a good time. I'm also learning a new army and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's cool. In addition to that, I found online a guy that had all the files for basically every kind of American, German, British, Russian, French tank, Jeep, tractor, whatever from World War II to 3D print. So I'm super excited about that because then you can kind of dustify them and add the phasers and Tesla cannons to them and stuff and just print them and them be like their own Tiger tank with a laser gun on it, basically. So I'm super excited to print those, but I'm in the process of printing the ZF-1 for cosplay for Gen Con. So that's been a little damper on that, but lots of fun playing Dust again because we've got tons of those minis, but kind of fell away from it. And then recently here just got back into it. So
I don't mind that miniatures game. Like, I've only played it once or maybe twice, but as far as minis games go, it's
because it straddles the border between board game and minis game, because you can play it in the 3D where you have the measuring tape and you got to measure 4 inches and all that kind of stuff, but you can play it on the grid, which is kind of how I actually prefer it. And it makes it a much more relaxed and faster game. When we were playing 50-point armies, we hadn't played in a while, so we're kind of reacclimating ourselves to the rules. Mm-hmm. I think we played 2 or 3 games in about an hour and a half, So it's a good time. It was fun.
Not bad at all.
And I like the theme. The minis are wicked cool.
Yeah, the look of the Dust minis are just excellent.
Hard to beat it. Diesel Punk and Pinup Girls. What more could you want, right?
I can't think of anything else.
Any other games that you've played here lately?
Cytosis. We hadn't played it in so long, so I had to pull it off the shelf. because I'm a science geek and that's what it is. But I really like it right now because Isaiah just got done doing like cellular biology in school this year. So
I didn't realize that.
yeah, so he was like actually recognizing like, oh, you know, what the Golgi apparatus was. And he was like, what's this? And I was like, it's a ribosome. And then we talked about the fact that it was bigger so that you could see what it was. And I was like, oh, but if you look over here on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, you see that it's actually just small bumps.
Well, and that's the funny thing is I don't like, I shouldn't say I don't like, most resource management games. I don't really care for. They're just not my worker placement games. They're just not my thing. They're not my bag. But that game I really like. And I mean, organic chem and cellular respiration is not the most exciting theme, but I really like that game.
Hell, you say?
Well, I mean, it's okay. Let me rephrase that.
I love that skin on it instead of here's my city and now I'm allocating my resources here and I'm going to go mine the ore and the gold. And no, we're building proteins and carbs and putting them together. It's going to be awesome. Let
me back that up. The Krebs cycle is crazy cool and scary and amazing, but when you think about that as a skin for a game, you're just doesn't jump out at me as that. And the fact that Genius Games was able to do that and consistently across a couple different scientific processes is very cool and fun. They've got one that they're kickstarting right now, I think, that's out there that's something about like subatomic or something.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's already done.
Oh, is it already over?
Yeah. It will probably be at Gen Con. I would be willing to bet.
I saw it on their Twitter. It was like the banner page of their Twitter. So
I think it's already done. And then we have the Virulence expansion for that Cytosis game and haven't even busted it out yet.
Right.
Because I feel like I like to have a really solid handle on the base game before I get the expansion out. So I backed that one on Kickstarter. So we got like the fancy wooden pieces instead of the cubes that actually have the molecular bonded structure.
It adds a certain something to it. So. Although I will say I'm having a problem again. Because we used to have the rule that we have a board game closet in our gaming area in our basement. And the rule was that's the amount of space we have for board games. But we have since then expanded that because...
I feel like that was only ever your rule. I don't remember like agreeing to that.
Well, the reason I like it that way though is because you sort of pare down to what you really like and want to play.
There's so many good games.
I know, but then we have too many of them and we don't play them. And then it makes me crazy. Because they're there and we don't play them. And I'm like, well, either we should play this game or send it to someone who will enjoy it.
But I enjoy it when we play it.
And then the other part of it is that we have too many games. And like Cytosis being a great example of it, I want to get better at that game and be able to compete at a more strategic level. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And without being able to familiarize yourself with it, sometimes it's kind of hard to do that because you have to play it over and over again.
I get that. I feel that way about Ortus Regni because it's such a beautiful game and such a really good game. But if you don't play it semi-regularly, you're like, what is this card again? What does this do?
That's a game that we need to get back out again and play.
Trying to put your deck together. And we have so many good games.
Yeah.
Sakura Arms is another really beautiful card game with a lot of strategy that and I gotta say,
I spent a lot of time gluing pieces over the tops of the Japanese words that we can't read to be able to play that game. And it's a great game, but it was a lot of work. Any other games you've been playing? I played Fortnite for some reason. It's a Xbox thing, and I've been like...
Isaiah's loving that really hard right now.
Oh, is he really?
The Fortnite, yeah.
Oh, I know he is. I didn't know if he was like loving me playing it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
He's really good at it. And it's kind of funny because he's so young and he's just murking people.
I'm sure he's way better at it than I am. I was watching him and Zeke play the other day. Is there like a 2-player version of Fortnite? Or maybe they were playing something different.
Had to be something different.
Because, it was just the two of them, but they were just like taking turns sniping each other. And I was surprised how competitive Zeke was in playing Isaiah. Like, he was geeking him left and right. Like, what is going on here? And he's 7.
Right on.
It's like I would just be standing here still trying to figure out how to turn my head left without looking up at the same time.
Right. So is there any other games you've played here recently?
I think that's all the non-RPG games.
What about RPGs then?
Have we played any other board games recently?
No.
It's been a really long time since our last roundtable discussion. I know since the last time we had one of these, I've played Above and Below, which I really like.
Which I did not get a chance to play.
I played it with Lee and Carrie because I bought it for them for Christmas. And so I played it like 2 or 3 times. And I know they've played it a bunch, but it is interesting because it's like it's a resource management game on one hand, but it's also got this brilliant like choose your own adventure game happening in the below the earth area where you get to decide what level of challenge you're going to try and take on. And then you know, based on the number of dice you have and the number you would need to succeed. And so sort of kind of this resource management on top of a pressure luck risk kind of gambling
no whammies,
scenario.
No whammies. Stop.
Right, exactly. And so then you're trying to get the most number of points.
Mm-hmm.
You
know what game we should play again is The Crow. In addition to Orders Regni, The Crow is a great two-player game because there are not enough really solid two-player games out there.
Yeah. Such a good movie.
Speaking of The Crow,
it's such a good theme. They
Jason Momoa, he quit. He quit the film, and so did the director. So The Crow, the reproduction of The Crow may not be happening. I read that today.
I'm very okay with that.
I know. I'm kind of conflicted about it because I like him, but the original Crow movie is so hard to live up to. You're never going to be able to.
I just don't think you can do that better, and I don't think you should try. Like,
No,
it was very well done.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and I think they should just leave it alone and make a new movie.
Some things you just shouldn't mess with.
Not a sequel either. Just have an idea and make that idea into a movie.
Right.
Or read a really good book and steal that idea and make it a movie. But something that hasn't been done already. I'm so tired of remakes.
True story. So I'm excited. Carrie got you, at my advice, Time Stories for your birthday.
I picked that up at like 3 times at the game store.
Yeah, I know. And then you didn't get it. And then she was there. And then she's like, do you think she'll like this? And I said, I know for a fact she will. It looks like it's pretty neat. Go ahead and get it. And then this is when we were doing our indie RPG day there. And you were looking at the expansions. And one of the guys that works there, Simon, he was like, oh, she just bought that. And I was like, shaking my head at him. No.
I didn't even notice that you said that.
I looked right at him, kind of like big-eyed, and was like shaking my head no when you weren't looking at me. And he was like, oh. So it was a great moment there, and I'm glad you didn't pick up on it because then she gave it to you for your birthday.
I had no idea. That's hilarious.
I just finished 30 minutes ago punching and putting that game together.
It has a wonderful insert. It's a beautiful.
So I've got to say, amazing props to, I think it's Space Cowboys. It's a gaming company out of France that made that, which is also where Room 25 comes from.
Which also has a wonderful box insert.
Apparently in France
has their shit together for box inserts.
Yes, when it comes to putting that stuff together and figuring out how it all goes together, they have got it figured out. Big props to them. We haven't played it yet. It looks a little complicated, but tomorrow there is a couple how it's played videos on YouTube that I'm going to watch, so we'll get that one to the table here soon. I'm excited to try it out.
The reason why I didn't get Time Stories at the game store was because just like maybe 2 weeks before that, we had bought Pandemic.
Oh yeah.
So we played this one at JD and Holly's house. Holly hasn't been on the podcast, but she's on our Night Witches actual play. So she is Galia. Anyway, so we played Pandemic at their house and just like lost over and over and over.
No, we didn't lose. We got slaughtered. I think one of the times I think we lost 7 times in a row, and one of the times I think we were at turn 3 and it was already so far, and not like turn like everybody has gone 3 times. Like of the 4 people at the table, the third person had gone and things were already so spiraled out of control. It was so I realized ridiculous.
We're way behind because Pandemic has been out for a while and has won several awards.
I don't know how we never ended up really playing that game.
And I played the Cthulhu Pandemic version when Haley brought it over during HillCon, but hadn't played the regular game, so we played it there and we bought it and we brought it home and probably lost at it again at least another 6 or 7 times.
Yeah. I was
before we finally won.
This isn't our first board game. Why are we so terrible at it? But we finally got things worked out and figured out. It was great. Well, I like losing.
Obviously, with the science, I like losing. I like the skin of the whole epidemiology aspect of it. But yeah, it's a hard game to win, which is I appreciate.
Speaking of games that are hard to win, I'm excited. Is we need to play Black Orchestra more. Because that's a game that's hard to win.
I thought about taking that one to Gen Con. Contessa also has board games that like big board games that are time consuming or for lots of people so you don't get to play as often as you would like. And so you can take them there and teach people how to play them.
They're making a second edition of it apparently. What? Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get that because...
Like just a different version of it or like an add-on to the regular game?
No, I think they're going to change some things a little bit. I don't know if if they're making it easier, I don't want to get it because I like how hard that game is. Like I feel a better sense of satisfaction when I beat that game than when I beat Arkham Horror. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that is a wicked hard game.
It's a better game.
It is too.
I mean, because Arkham Horror is hard to beat, but after a while, it just feels very redundant.
It's monotonous. So for those of you that don't know, you should be familiar with Arkham Horror. You're trying to close the gates. Cthulhu is or some elder god is coming. But Black Orchestra is about the actual conspiracy to assassinate Hitler by the German Wehrmacht and Ahnenerbe that actually happened. So if you've seen the movie, Tom Cruise movie, Project Valkyrie, that's a lot of where it comes from. So Hitler and Himmler and Hess and all his generals kind of move around the board and they have special powers. But the goal is to collect the right resources and get Hitler into the right spot and try to assassinate him before the war ends and before all this other stuff happens, because the game progresses through World War II. And it is just an amazing, really well put together on a historical level. It's well put together because of all the events. The gameplay is amazing. The components are really good. It's well researched. It's just a great game on like every level. That's a game that I would feel confident to put it in like a history class about World War II, to be like, all right, so now we turn over the card and it's the invasion of Poland. So what is the invasion of Poland? And then we move through that and then continue like it's a great game. It's just amazing and wicked hard. Like wicked hard. Like I don't even know how to explain to you how many things have to line up right to get.
You saw that video that
Yes, I do.
That's how good it is. You just like, I will never forget the shaking the dice, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
God
things had
damn it.
aligned so that we had Hitler in the right spot. We had our one shot at assassinating him. We put all of our things into all of our eggs into one basket to try and assassinate him, bonus dice, all that kind of stuff. And it was sort of the 11th hour. We rolled the dice, and I think we came up 2 hits short. And we
No, it was like you had one too many falcons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you have too many falcons, then you get discovered trying to carry out the plot.
Yeah.
And instead of succeeding,
I was very
you go to be questioned.
Frustrated. There was, it was a great moment of angst that was coming out of me.
It's terrible.
It was so much fun. Anyway, enough about but it's a great game. I think that one's from Plaid Hat.
No, it's from Game Salute.
Oh, Game Salute. Okay. Awesome game though. It's one of my favorites that we have. So on to RPGs. Our main focus. I know we get excited about board games though, because sometimes
we don't play any RPGs.
It's a fun thing. And actually, I don't know. I didn't tell you this, but the time stories inside there, it says it's a combination of an RPG and a board game together. So I'm excited to actually get it out and play it and see how it goes. But anyway, before we go down another rabbit hole, RPGs. What have you played, ran recently?
So I played in the Dresden Files Fate Accelerated game that you ran.
Mm-hmm. I know we kind of went on a little diatribe about that in the pre-show, but overall, did you have a good time with that one?
Yeah.
So
I thought it was fun. It was, I don't know, probably my fault, but a little more comical than I think probably was originally anticipated when sitting down for the game. But I mean, I was playing a fae and I was a con artist, so you got to have a little fun with things.
I took the Neutral Grounds scenario that was for the original Dresden Files game before they converted it to Dresden Files Accelerated, and then sort of converted that with some changes and some modifications into the Fate Accelerated system, and then ran with it with the hopes.
Like you guys thought I was going to pick the other character that was available, but I actually played this scenario.
Oh, that's right. Me and you played it, the first half of it at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Several years ago. Yep.
And that was the character I played before. I didn't actually remember the plot of the game at all, but I remembered my character from the description, and I was like, I don't want to play that one again.
Well, so I had enough changes in it because I remembered that, and I had put enough changes in there to where it wasn't the exact same. And we didn't actually get to play the entire thing through because we had other commitments elsewhere.
I really only remembered my character and the Neutral Grounds.
Right.
That was it.
So you also ran Bedlam Hall for all of us.
Yes, I did. And it was wicked fun.
Yes.
I'd never ran it before. And I had a lot. That's probably the most fun I've ever had running an RPG.
So here's something that I realized. Apparently Monkey Fun Studios is good at making games that are just no holds barred fun. Now, Bedlam Hall is drastically different in tone than Spirit of 77.
And I'm not sure I could run Spirit of 77. Well, I love playing in it, but it's just not
I have a very deep love of that game. I don't know if it's because I grew up and remember very fondly a lot of those things, but that game, if you want something that is a palate cleanser that is just ridiculous on its face, no holds barred fun. Let's embrace all the ridiculous 70s and 80s tropes and go 1,000 miles and lean into it as hard as you can at 1,000 miles an hour. That is the game for you. And it does it so well. But the exact opposite of that spectrum is another game, the second game that Monkey Fun has put out, which is Bedlam Hall.
Yeah, so Bedlam Hall is set in the period after the Great War. No, it's
20s. Okay.
It's after World War I, and it is in
England,
London,
somewhere.
England,
Yeah.
somewhere across the pond.
Right.
And you work for the Blackwell family, who, depending on what kind of game you're wanting to run, runs the gambit between wildly eccentric to murderous psychopaths,
Right.
or any combination thereof. And your PCs actually play the serving staff within the house. So you have a cook, you have a butler, you have a valet, you have a chauffeur, you have a
Housekeeper, I think, is the other one.
housekeeper.
The head maid.
I thought I said maid.
You said maid, but it's housekeeper. There's
Okay.
she's
But then
like,
there's the one that actually attends to the lady of the house.
I think that's housekeeper, isn't it?
No, it's definitely not the housekeeper. Anyhow,
Whoever, right, whatever.
the servant staff, you get the picture. And basically you're just trying to keep the family as chill as possible to maintain dignity while also maintaining the overall cleanliness and
The actual job of being a servant.
the actual job of being a servant, whatever that may be.
Now,
So
one of the things that I liked about it a lot is that I felt like when we sat down to play it, that game could run the spectrum from Addams Family and having the wackiness of the Addams Family, and how you sort of have the ridiculousness that is the Addams Family with Uncle Fester and Morticia and Gomez and all that. At the same time, you could go the other way and very easily lean into something that's a lot more darker, and do something along the lines of maybe, I don't know, what Penny Dreadful might be a good example of it, but it's contained around all that insanity is inside the house, and you're
that
the
was a little
serving
more
staff.
Supernatural, though. So my thought kind of jumped to more of like a Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get
Because you
to.
could go for like a serious darkness
Mhm.
or more lighthearted kind of,
Right.
Scooby-Doo escapade.
And I felt like we did it in our game. If you imagine Bumper Bowling, where one rail is the Addams Family and the other rail is Jack the Ripper, we kind of bounced back and forth between the two as was necessary to have a lighter moment, and then to have a darker moment, and then a lighter moment. And I don't want to give anything away, because I think you're going to run the scenario at Contessa at Gen Con, and then also at the game store in Terre Haute, right?
Yes.
So I don't want to go into it too much.
I'm realizing now is 2 weeks away, and that is a terrifying prospect.
Oh,
but
at the game store?
yeah.
Yeah. But I really have come around to the idea that I think that whenever we play any game, we don't take it too seriously, right? But I really like the idea when the people that design the game, they don't take it too seriously when they design it, and they lean into that. And I feel like Monkey Fun has done that intentionally, because it's very, very clear. If you want to take Spirit of 77 and have Enter the Dragon meets Knight Rider, then you're all good to do that, and The Pieces Fall Where They May, and have ridiculous fun. And at the same time, they've done that with Bedlam Hall in such a drastically different way, in that they've leaned into, hey, let's play a game where we all know we're going to be at each other's throats, and we're all going to come right at each other, and it's all good and fun, and let's just sort of see what happens, right?
Mhm. And their kind of scenarios that they present in the book are designed very free form. So they give you kind of like, here is what's going on today.
Yeah.
In this case, it's a birthday party.
Very Apocalypse World.
And here's like a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs about that.
Yeah.
But then they give you each of the NPCs for that scenario. And then you have, all the family in the house and everything. But each person, each NPC has their own brand of trouble.
Mm.
And then each one of them comes with a little set description of what happens when their trouble escalates.
Right.
Which to me is just, if you're not actively subduing their trouble, it's escalating.
Right.
And so then you take this delightful mix of escalating troubles and you just toss them around in the air and force your players to react to that. And it just flows very easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
And it's very easy
difficult.
for things to spiral out of control, because problems in the house escalate, and there's the wacky uncle who's very eccentric, and then there's this person and that person, and
And the fact that it's not so serious makes the succeeding at a cost thing easier to throw out, because it can be something that is more lighthearted. It doesn't have to be just oppressive.
What I liked about it, I think the most, is that first off, I was the cook. So unless the trouble was in the kitchen or involving the meal, I was kind of like, whatever. You guys deal with that. Plus, I got to break out my terrible French accent for that game because I was a boisterous French chef, and it was a lot of fun. But the thing that I like about the overall game the most is, while it's very player versus player, there are no moves for you to actually attack someone. So it's all about social prestige and casting doubt on someone and shaming them and all that kind of stuff. And 100% not about, you're the maid, I'm going to punch you in the face because you made me mad. It's not even really within the scope of the moves to do that.
Right.
And that adds to it.
While I've never been British, I have been from the Midwest, and I feel like we have a similar sort of pretend not to be offended, whatever you do, don't talk about it kind of attitude. And
right. We're just not as apologetic.
Right. The social combat thing where maybe it's close, though. It's very close. Yeah, the whole social dynamic sort of veiled threat thing works very well.
I really enjoyed it. And especially, I know a lot of people have problems with player versus player games, but when you sit down going into it knowing that, not that you're sitting down and you say, you're playing the paladin and I'm playing the thief, and eventually there's going to be a reckoning. This is a game where you sit down and realize out the gate, hey, we are jockeying for position and prestige and the admiration of this family, and we're going to be trying to cast doubt and get each other fired.
Well, the prestige actually reminded me a lot of the fate system with fate points. So that kind of combined with the Apocalypse World thing, and I like that a lot. So
right on,
because you just use them for bonuses and
right.
But then it's a little more than that too. It's like your social status or whatever. Right.
So has your game for contest been approved yet?
I haven't got an email yet.
But it is scheduled for Thursday morning, right?
Yes, if it's approved.
Right.
Thursday, 10 a to 12 p.
Right on.
But I haven't got the official email yet, so I don't want to
Right.
But
so if you're interested in Bedlam Hall or something from Monkey Fun Studios, or interested in Apocalypse World and you haven't taken the plunge yet, Lacey, who has a fair amount of experience both playing and running Apocalypse World games, will be there running it. It should be a wicked good time because we've played it once now, and you're going to run it a couple more times to sort of test it out here, there, and everywhere and see how it goes.
Super nervous.
So it's all good. I was too at HoosierCon, but I took the plunge, and I'm telling you what, not to be like an arrogant paramedic, but we kind of know what we're doing, as it turns out.
I would really like to run it one time here before I run it at the game store, but I don't know that we're going to have time to make that happen.
Right.
But yeah, so I've never run a game for strangers before.
That is a big thing to overcome, and
it makes me very nervous.
And I'll be honest, I've been running and playing games since I was 12 years old, and I'm 38 now. And when we went to HoosierCon, I was very nervous. I mean, I really was, and in a good way. Nervous to me motivates me and drives me. I'm not the personality type that clams up and freezes. I when I get nervous, I want to drive right into it, and I want to push through it. And
well, I've been told I'm a pretty good public speaker. I don't like to do it because it makes me feel like I want to curl up and die.
Right.
But I hold it together fairly well.
I really think though that after we have our second indie game days, provided that we have enough people to sit down and play it, that you'll realize, as I have, it's not that big of a deal. You're a good game master, you're a good storyteller, and most of it is most of it is just overcoming the initial jitters of doing it. And then
I'm really
also
excited about the plot of my storyline.
It's even easier because most of the people that sit down and play this game, they know their game master's tricks. They don't know your tricks.
Right.
And that is part of the true excitement of seeing how is this new game master who I don't know from anyone going to challenge me. And that's what I like the most. And at the same time, on the running side of it, for those of you that haven't run at a convention, sitting down to a group of players who you don't know and seeing how are these players going to challenge me is really fun. Because when I ran the MASH scenario that I have, the 5 people that sat down to play that, now granted, they were great players and they made the game a lot easier for me. But they challenged me in ways of my creativity and adapting to things and thinking on my feet in ways that I hadn't been in a long time. And I had a great time. Like just an absolute great time. It was so much fun. So I would encourage anybody, if you've got the experience and you're used to running games, get out there and do it, because first off, conventions need more GMs, period. And it's way fun to challenge yourself to get out there and do that. So there's your pep talk. We mentioned Spirit of 77 already, but I have been wanting to run a terrible, campy 70s science fiction game. I'm a huge fan of Barbarella for some silly reason. It's one of my guilty pleasures, just like Disco. I have a problem. It's okay. But I really like campy 70s science fiction movies. And Spirit of 77 will kind of do it, but I just feel like it's not quite right. So I started to try and pull different moves from different playbooks from both Apocalypse World and Uncharted Worlds and Spirit of 77 and a bunch of different sci-fi Powered by the Apocalypse games. And I'm in the process of putting that together, and I'm super excited for it because I think it's going to be a wicked good time. And in fact, we went to Half Price Books, as we do, and we have a problem there. And for $20, I got 100 terrible sci-fi science fiction movies that span from the 50s to the 90s. So there were 2 different box sets that were $10 a piece that I got that have 50 movies, and they are amazing. So yesterday I watched.
What's the title of the Santa Claus one?
Let me hang on. So one of the playbooks I'm actually going to make is going to be Santa Claus. It really, truly is. So it is called Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, 1964, starring Pia Zadora.
That is just amazing.
So that one's going to be fabulous. If you Google campy science fiction movies, I think that comes up in like the top 25 terrible campy science fiction movies. And there's a difference really between campy and terrible sci-fi movies. There really is a difference between the two, but
it's a fine line. Sometimes there's lots of overlap.
It is. I watched Galaxia the other day, which is an 80s comedy science fiction, or Galaxia, that's it. Yeah. Science fiction movie, and it was super fun. I had a great time watching it. I actually didn't skip any scenes at all. I watched the entire thing, and it was fun. I had a good time watching it. So
it's just, I can't help but think of the Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
Yeah. Yes. The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra is amazing. If you guys haven't seen that, it's totally worth watching.
It's a B sci-fi movie spoof.
So it has the best line in it of any sci-fi movie.
I'm a scientist. I don't believe in anything.
There is that one, but there is also...
There is no line better than that.
Amish Terrarium?
Nope.
Which is my favorite line
it's not
ever.
As good. Scientist line is better.
It's close.
If he believes the legends.
So I'm super looking forward to that one. I know there's a couple people around our table that are excited about it. Kurt has mentioned that he kind of grew up during that era of watching those on USA Up All Night and stuff, and they're just terrible movies, but they're so much fun. So I thought it'd be some good ridiculous fun to get involved in. Flash Gordon style Barbarella, Ice Pirates, Galaxia.
I feel like it should be Galaxia.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm not basing that on anything. It just feels more right.
Right.
Or less wrong.
So any other RPGs that you have coming up or that you've been excited about and we've played here recently?
Yes. So I have continued, I posted about it somewhere, but continued running Terraria with our 7-year-old son.
I forgot about that.
Terraria is an Xbox game or a video game. I think it's on more than Xbox, but it's very 8-bit, 2-dimensional. Side-scrolling.
Terrible.
Classic. Going through the dungeon. There's floating demon eyes. There's ooze. There's disembodied skeleton heads and arms that you fight at boss levels. There's mimic chess. Very classic sort of dungeon crawling nonsense.
Right.
And so then when we were talking about running this, I was thinking about different systems, and James was like, why don't you use Lamentations? And I was like, he's 7. That's not a good idea. But I was going to be helping him running it anyway. And then the more I got to thinking about it, I was, weird fantasy role-playing, OSR. This is a classic dungeon crawl world with giant demon eyes and disembodied skeleton heads and arms. It actually makes perfect sense. Plus, they each have a full set of polyhedrals, and then they'll get to use all of the shiny bits in rolling them.
One of the reasons why I said you should consider Lamentations is, one, it's got the D&D feel to it, which is, I feel like, what they were trying to go for. It uses all the special funky dice that you have in your dice bag, and it has hit points, which Fate doesn't have. And when they play those games, they're very used to saying, "Oh, I lost 6 HP or whatever," and I felt like it would make sense to them easier with him trying to run it. So
we did it, and I basically have to continuously remind him that you can't just narrate the whole thing. There are die rolls to make it more random, because he just wants to be like, okay, so you walk up and you one shot the green slime, and I'm like, no, they have to roll a dice to see if they one shot the green slime. So we go through all of this, and as we're going, I'm like, okay, well, Lamentations doesn't really have like a monster manual. No. And I've never played Terraria before. I watched them play it a couple of times, but I have no concept of the power level of a green slime versus the player that's trying to kill it, or whatever they call the skeleton guy. I can't remember what his name is right now. But I just no concept of it whatsoever. Enter Vordheim, and it works perfectly for this because there is a drop chart on the cover of the book for random monster creation. So now I'm just like, okay, take this D4 and roll it on this book. Okay, this is what our monster looks like, and go. So it worked out startlingly well, and we got to bust out some of the miniatures and make the classic kind of grid square cave crawl scenario, and the little skeletons and everything. And it's been really fun.
It's been cool. It's been a lot of fun. When we play those games, I generally try to sit back and let our kids sort of take the lead, so that I can just sort of follow their direction and let them sort of dictate the pace and the tone and what we're going to do and stuff. And it's been fun for me. I just sort of sit back and like to watch them puzzle things out and do different things and whatever. It's been a good time. In addition to that, gaming with our kids, I've been running a Fate Accelerated Fate of Freeport game, which has been a ton of fun because it's very simple, streamlined. Instead of the approaches that you have from Fate Accelerated, it's just the regular D&D Strength Dex Con as your approaches. So instead of making an attack roll, you make a strength check, or you make a wisdom roll, or whatever it is. And it has been way fun, and they are down in the sewers and dungeons of the city, chasing down Spider-Man creature things, and it's just been a lot of fun. So it's been low to no pressure gaming of just set up these encounters and let them try and run around and see what trouble they can get into.
Yeah,
so
I like the Fate system for gaming with kids in that D&D style world.
I go back and forth between Fate Accelerated and No Thank You Evil, depending on the age of your little ones, but it's been a lot of fun and been really good. So.
And I bought No Thank You Evil for our nieces. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not when we were talking about the Kickstarter, but they are 3 and 6. So I got it for her birthday. And my brother is the one in our group who runs the Numenera, because Carrie got that for him for Christmas. And so he's already kind of familiar with the Numenera system, which is
very
like
similar.
No Thank You Evil is like ultra light Numenera as far as character creation and everything. So I think he's going to run it for the girls and probably for Carrie too. And I think they're really going to like it.
Right on. Well, you got a quick plug in for your Bedlam Hall game for the Indie RPG Days, so I'm going to plug my 7th Sea game that I have real quick. And we have a ridiculous amount of 7th Sea swag, so I'm super excited to bust that out and lay my pirate flag on the table as a playmat and get out the sextant and all the dice and the wealth points and the drama points or action points and all that stuff, because I backed the Kickstarter and got all the special cool funky 7th Sea stuff. So I'm super excited for that, to introduce some people to 7th Sea, because one, the game shop has the books for it, and it's just a great game and such a great way to transition away from regular traditional fantasy gaming into something that's a little, I don't know, more high adventure, fun kind of style of thing. But I feel like it's an easy jump to go from D&D high fantasy to 7th Sea high adventure.
And everybody's pretty accepting of pirates.
Yeah, who doesn't like pirates?
I don't know what the reason is, but for some reason we have this just fascination with piracy.
Well, pirates and D'Artagnan, basically, that's what that game is. It's pirates and Three Musketeers.
Well, kind of appeals to the whole rebellious freedom that,
definitely does.
America is all about all the time. So,
well, that sort of freedom to make your own way and to the American dream to, get rich and do your thing on a pirate ship or however it is. And it's just a fun game, though. It's just sort of like I mentioned with the Monkey Fun stuff, is that it's just a game that says this is a game about being heroic and pirates and musketeers and just doing amazing things.
Well, and the setting is almost no work
Yeah.
either, because everybody automatically understands the pirate tropes because it's something that is such a large part of just pop culture for whatever reason.
And it got even easier when Pirates of the Caribbean came out.
Right.
I mean, because when the first edition came out, Pirates of the Caribbean wasn't a thing, but now everybody's seen those movies because they're good movies, you know?
Yeah, but even when you were a kid, I mean, there was The Goonies, which had a little bit of pirates in there. There was Cutthroat Island, which as a girl was huge for me because there was like a female star and she was a badass.
Oh, it's a great movie.
And then like even before that, there was Pippi Longstocking, who had pirate treasure and had like sailed with pirates and was she wasn't ever on a ship, I don't think, in the movie, but it was like a big deal because it was like this just boisterous girl who was like so free and just like wrestling stuff and having all this money for no apparent reason.
Well, I think Treasure Island bears mentioning there too.
Treasure Island.
Which is a great, you know, whether it's
especially
the book
the Muppet
or the Muppets.
version.
Yeah, thank you. Right. So, but it's just a great fun game, and I'm excited to expose some people to it because we're talking to some of the people that were gaming with us about, hey, what do you guys think? Because we want to try and bring different games each time because we play a lot of games, a lot of different games. We have a lot of different storytelling voices at our table because among the 6 regulars we have at our table, all of us are game masters. So we have a very big, broad spectrum of storytelling voices.
By far, Kurt plays the best foppish pirate. Without a doubt. John Thomas.
I'm excited to have all the classic pirate tropes and high adventure on the ocean with a abandoned island and cannibals and magic and mysticism and all the fun stuff. So I'm super excited for that. So looking forward to it.
I don't mind getting bogged down in combat in 7th either because their system is just so fun.
Well, yeah, it's so. That's the thing is what I liked about it the most, and this I learned in the first edition 7th was it was the first set of gaming books that I ever encountered where they were actually fun to read. It didn't read like a rules guide. It had that piece in there, but it also had some pieces in there that kind of made it a little more lighthearted, easier to read, and easier to consume. And one of the things that I like about it was that it said in there, if you want to grab the rope and cut the rope so the chandelier comes tumbling down and swing across the ballroom and fence off 3 guards and scoop up the princess and swing out of the castle, that's great. You do that. There's no in D&D that's a rope use check and 3 attack rolls and then an athletics roll.
You're at a minus so many for a called shot and this and that.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you stole my story. You just took it and you yanked it out and you crumbled it up and you threw it in the trash.
And I'll never forget the moment I read that in the first edition, and I was like, I just love this game because it allows you to do those larger than life things, whereas D&D is more tactical and it's its own thing, and it's all good, but I like the idea of things having different styles and categories. And 7th Sea draws a big line in the sand and says, we are on this side of things, and it's drama and adventure. And that is the side over there, and you can be tactical and do whatever you want over there. But when it's 7th Sea time, it's adventure and henchmen and brutes and D'Artagnan fencing down 7 guards in 1 round and whatever he wants to do because, well, he's D'Artagnan and that's what he does.
So badly to play a 7th Princess Bride game.
That would be wicked fun.
It would be wicked fun. And the dungeon is practically done for you in the book.
True.
It is the magical menagerie of dungeons.
Right.
Maybe that'll be my next project after all these other projects.
Yeah, I've had a wealth of inspiration here lately. I don't know if it's lack of sleep or what, but I've been chomping at the bit to get different things off the ground. Plus the stuff at the game shop and the indie RPG days, it's been good for me. So
kind of fired it up again.
Right on. I know we made a ridiculous stop at Half Price Books, and we got a lot of stuff there. So do you want to move on to that, or do you have anything else about RPGs in general that we've got coming up here?
I'm not running this one and Carrie's not here, but I feel like it bears mentioning because we have this just like ongoing sporadic Maze of the Blue Medusa game going on, which you're also not involved in. So I'm just going to talk about it for a minute because I'm really enjoying it, and for reasons that I didn't expect. The maze, when we started the game, we're just sort of like there in this village doing our own thing. And some like weird greasy fingered dude tells us that we should go steal this painting and not even take it to give to him to sell. He wants us to steal it and like hang it up at this party to like, shame some dude that he's socially acquainted with.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something Carrie came up with or if that's like the actual intro to what's going on. I have no idea. Anyway, we end up inside this other world, which is the maze of this blue Medusa, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't really know why we're there. And that changes the entire dynamic of the dungeon crawl. Because normally you're in and you're like, okay, I'm looking for this thing, or I'm trying to rescue this, or I'm here for treasure, or I'm trying to defeat this wicked beast that's tormenting the folks. In this case, I just end up here and I'm like, well, this is intriguing. I just kind of want to get home. So that's like my motivation. I'm like, I don't know where I'm at right now, but this is one where, I mean, I guess I didn't have anything else going on, but I do like expect to get paid for doing this thing that I did.
Right.
And so we're causing all this like mayhem as we go through because we, you know, setting things loose that apparently had been trapped there for a reason and just going through all these things. And plus it just coming out of Zach's brain, which has all this weirdness happening in it. There's lots of colorful, interesting creatures, and they have personalities that are a lot different than what you might expect. And so we get to the end, and we've met this Cronia lady who's just tearing through time and causing things to waste away. And then we meet this blue Medusa. And we come there, and it's just the whole way there we find these people, and they're all talking about how everybody comes there to try and kill her because she's a Medusa. And you get to the end and I'm like, well, I don't really have a problem with this lady. Like, I didn't come here to try and kill a Medusa. I'm here by accident. And so now I'm like running letters back and forth between the Medusa lady and the Cronia lady because there's some kind of affection there or something that's broken and I don't even know what's happening. I'm like, this is not what I expected to be happening at all. And now I'm like, well, I wasn't really doing anything back there anyway. This place is kind of neat. Maybe I'll just stay and touch more things and drink more things and do more things and just see what happens.
I'm about a quarter of the way through Deathfrost Doom with Lee, Carrie, and Kurt, and it's the version that Zach took Radji's original version and sort of like changed a few things, kind of punched some things up or whatever, and it's very similar in how there's these things that are locked away in there, and you're not supposed to set them free, but in going through it, you kind of do, right? That's just how it sort of works. And they have all these really cool names of their titles and different things. It's a death cult and all this stuff, and evilness and badness and sacrificing people and blah, 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 all that goodness. But it just reminds me that it's such a better put together dungeon crawl and adventure with much more flavor and personality to it than most of the other stuff that's out there that you encounter, you know, and I really enjoy them. Even if I don't run them, I just enjoy reading them. That's the craziest part. I've never been one to buy an adventure and be like, ooh, I'm going to read this, because they're boring. And they're to be honest, most of them are kind of flat. And whenever I had encountered them in the past, like with second edition and third edition, it was like, I'll read this and I'll get ideas from it and then I'll do my own thing. And these ones, they're just great. Like the one that I just got, Fish from April 1st, it's a great adventure with amazing twists to it and all this other stuff. And
what I found that is so different from D&D that I absolutely loved, right, is you're doing your classic dungeon crawl and you're doing absolutely everything you can to try and stay alive because it's all about your character.
That's what you do, yeah.
And as I'm going through this maze, what I find instead is, okay, like I like my character and I want to survive because that's the point of the game, but I really just want to see what happens when I push this button. Oh, right. Because I know it's going to be something interesting.
Yeah. True story.
So, like, it might just be worth it for me to make a new character so I can find out what happens if I push the button.
Right. All right. Did you have any other gaming stuff or no?
That's all I can think about at this exact moment.
I know we've got a lot of games going on since our last open or gaming or round table.
It's been so long, I can't even remember. Oh, I did have one more thing I wanted to mention. It hasn't come to full fruition yet, but I have never done an online RPG before. Online tabletop RPG before, I guess I should say. Not like a computer game.
Right.
But you get what I'm saying. Like something using the Roll20 app or Discord or something like that. And so at HoosierCon, we went to, I played in Shadows of Estern.
Uh-huh.
And so the guy that was GMing that game has a Facebook group, which I joined. And then he was mentioning how he wanted to try and do an online run of Shadows of Estern. And so I popped into the online group and I saw where he mentioned this and I was like, okay, I'll totally be involved. So he's waiting on a full party. I think we're like still one person short. And then he wants to run this online. And so I'm pretty stoked for that.
Right on. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I volunteered to be a PC in this online game because I don't have enough going on.
Are they going to do it across Roll20 or what?
I have no idea.
Don't know. Very cool. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I don't know. But I thought I might like to run a game in that kind of situation at some point. And I would much rather play in one first and kind of see how things work from that aspect.
Well,
and then go on from there.
I was talking to a couple of the guys that work at Game in Terre Haute, and they run games on Roll20. And they said it's a lot more work on the Dungeon Master on the front end of things because you have to actually build the maps and all that kind. If you're in that kind of a game, now if you're running Fiasco or a Fate game, it's not exactly the same, right? It's a much different game, but if you're running a more tactical style game,
what I really need to figure out is how you run Dread.
I was reading something somewhere on a forum about people that have like an online Jenga thing that you play.
It's just not the same.
I don't disagree. But I was like, ooh, man, it's not as good. But, so there's things out there. And they said that if you're playing a more tactical D&D Pathfinder style game, that there's a lot more work on the front end of things, which is kind of a bummer. But because you can't just draw the map while you're sitting there because it's probably not going to come out very well. You got to put the map together with the grid and the skins on it and the wallpapers and blah, 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 blah. So
I feel like the way Kyle does his maps, which is like layers and you take the layers off or whatever.
And so
it's good.
It worked well for the two actual plays we did with him with Blood and Chocolate and Horrors of Pig Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but from Horrors of Pig Island from Weird on the Waves. So all right, right on. So do you want to close this up with the things that we got at Half Price Books?
Books!
I think my stack is a little taller than yours, so I think I'll start and we'll go back and forth.
It's not the size that matters.
I'm not saying that.
It's how you use it.
Well, speaking of, it's not the size that matters, but it's the motion of the ocean.
The last name of this author is Dix, by the way. I thought that was relevant to what's happening right
now. Well, speaking of the motion of the ocean, my first one is In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick, and this is the book that is written about the whale ship Essex, which is a whaling ship that leaves Nantucket, and it's the inspiration of Moby Dick. And the ship gets attacked by a sperm whale, and I'm just going to keep piling them on, so you can go ahead and giggle all you want.
I just can't. I'm busy thinking how long I would have to live in Nantucket before it stopped being funny, and I don't think it ever would. I don't know.
So as it turns out, I really love whaling fiction. It's really cool. I realize it might be the narrowest genre there is.
It really doesn't surprise me because you liked that. What was that show with the boat and the crabs?
Oh, Deadliest Catch.
Yes, Deadliest Catch.
There is something captivating about the ocean.
I just can't.
And I have a sailor's heart. I don't know. There's something about being...
I like the ocean and being on the ocean. I feel the same way about watching that show as I do about like watching baseball versus playing baseball.
Just the size of the waves and watching them crash down. It's just unbelievable, the power of the ocean. And when we went to
Unless I can feel the
Florida,
salty sea spray on my face.
And we were sailing down there and being under the power of the wind solely, it's just an amazing feeling, and there's nothing in this world like it, and I just think it's the coolest thing ever. But this book specifically is very cool because I want to do something with similar to whaling, but not where you're actually hunting whales, more like you're hunting leviathans, sort of like how Blades in the Dark have the leviathans that you go get that they use to fuel all the stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But instead of being the gang in the city, you're the people on the ship hunting the leviathans. So I've got 2 or 3 different books about.
Sounds to me like you're writing your scenario for Weird on the Waves.
Well, I thought about it actually because I really like that stuff and it's very cool. So, but the interesting thing about this one is it's not a story about a piece of fiction. It's actually taken from the cabin boy that survived and his notebook that they found in Indiana. And they took all of that and he sort of, this Nathaniel, he took it and then sort of cleaned up the language and changed things around and then also put some historical context with it and stuff. And it's very good because the trials and disaster that these sailors went through is just unbelievable. It's unreal. really cool. It's the heart of the sea, so it's really awesome whaling fiction. I realize it's kind of narrow, but anyway. So what's your first one?
So I have Doctor Who and an Unearthly Child.
Oh, is that the Are You My Mommy one?
I don't know. Maybe it's like based on that. I actually haven't. I don't think that it is, though. I haven't read too much into it. I was actually most drawn to it, not just because it's Doctor Who, but I saw it from across the way, and the cover art is very retro, I guess.
Okay.
And there's a thing on the front that says first publication of the very first Doctor Who story.
Oh, cool.
So I think it's actually just a reprint of a very old Doctor Who
Oh, it's from Target
novel
originally.
So that's really what caught my eye. So I picked it up. I've only read one Doctor Who book, and it was the one by Stephen Baxter, and it was very, very good. And then I really love Doctor Who.
So on the back of this book, it has the price in Malta.
Yeah, so it's like 30 cents or something.
It costs
like that.
1 Maltese pound and 30 cents in Malta. Weird. Okay, cool. Right on.
Well, it only cost me $2.
There you go.
So,
done.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I like Doctor Who. That's the theme of the story. I want to do the Doctor Who
Dread style game like I did.
Yeah, Doctor Who Dread / Apocalypse World Shot Clock mashup.
I'll pat myself on the back. I was very happy with that idea. It was very cool.
This is a brilliant idea.
So, right on. So my next one is High Road to the Stake, A Tale of Witchcraft by Michael Coons. I'm going to say that way. So it's a story of this family, the Pappenheimers, and they're in 16th century Germany, and they basically are brought up on trials of witchcraft and all kinds of trouble, and the whole family kind of gets put through the ringer, and it's a real thing. It's an actual story that happened, and it goes along with some of the other witchcraft stuff that books that I have about the 1600s of witchcraft and trials and all that kind of stuff that I think is just super interesting and fun, because I liked it before, but as we've played more and more Lamentations that takes place in the 1600s, generally speaking, it's drawn my interest to that even more now. So I'm hoping to use this for some inspiration for some Lamentations drama and danger.
Well, I feel like that leads into another one of my books, which is called Witches, Sluts, Feminists, Conjuring the Sex Positive by Kristen Soleil. And so I don't really know that it's related to gaming necessarily, but I'm about probably a third of the way through it. Unfortunately, I misplaced it this week and can't seem to figure out where I put it. And it's been bothering me. I've searched my entire house and 1 out of 2 of our vehicles, and it's driving me bananas. Anyhow, so it is, I guess it's about feminism. It's also about like historical
Witchcraft?
Yes. So,
but people that were accused
author,
of it necessarily.
well, no, the author is a practitioner.
Yeah.
Of witchcraft.
Okay.
So there's that in there as well, but it's also about historical events and how women have been portrayed.
Mm-hmm. Midwives and whatnot.
Midwives and not just that, but just, like women who are sexual and the repercussions of that, both historically and now. That's what that's about. And it's interesting and cool. And there you go.
So my next ones are all kind of in the same vein. I know I mentioned, I think on our last several episodes ago, that I had found a couple writer's guides to certain things. So one was like the writer's guide to World War I, and one was a writer's guide to World War II. And it was very interesting because it breaks things down to very specific things to do in terms of the fiction that you write to create the feel of that world. And I liked it because I didn't have to read a 6 books to figure out about colonial America. I could just look at this one thing and it was all bullet points, and I liked it a lot. So that led me down a rabbit hole of just going to find different books about writing and taking them not to actually write books or anything, but more as a way to sort of hone the craft of storytelling, basically. So the next one I got here is the How to Write Science Fiction and Fantasy by Orson Scott Card. So he is the guy that has written The Ender's Game, and he's written loads of fantasy and science fiction stuff, and he's a really good writer. And I guess some other things that I've listened to and read,
does he write westerns too?
Yeah, he has kind of a western fantasy thing. I remember you saying
his name now.
Yes, I have a couple of his western books. I
associate it with the sci-fi thing.
Mm-hmm. So his westerns kind of are one part like adventure western, one part fantasy. So they're kind of like in this weird limbo between genres or whatever. But I had read stuff about other people that were writers that said that he does a good job of communicating the very fundamentals of writing and storytelling in ways that a lot of people don't. And he's very successful and prolific. And I thought, well, who better to learn from than the people that are, doing this successfully? And I just thought it wasn't expensive. It's about the size of a Mind's Eye Theater LARP book, the Book of Nod or whatever, is what it reminded me of right away.
I was going to say Fiasco because it's kind of that color.
Oh, yeah. It just has the gold leaf and the same style cover as the Book of Nod. And that's why I was like, oh, look at that. That's what I've got now. And I like, these are easy reads because they're more nonfiction style things of techniques and things to do. So there's part of them that I don't even read because I'm not interested in writing books. I don't want to be a writer, but I just want to tell better stories. And so
my next one is A Time to Dance, A Time to Die, The Extraordinary Story of the Dancing Plague of 1518.
I would have picked this up if I saw it, but...
Which is exactly what it sounds like. So in 1518, there was some phenomenon where people randomly started dancing to death.
It's called St. Vitus's Dance.
Yes. And so this is a historical delve into those events as well as some speculation as to what the potential actual cause was.
Right.
And so... I think it sounds absolutely fascinating.
Super fun and interesting.
I can't wait to delve into that.
Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, we had a period of like one of the things in my high school we studied was like history of the Christian era in medieval Europe and stuff, and that story of St. Vitus's Dance comes up because it's just this crazy weird thing, and it's a lot of fun and super easy to pull into Lamentations because it's the right time period and it's just crazy weird.
It's right up there for me with the raining fish thing. And you say it and you're like, that can be a real thing. And yet...
Ergot. I'm just going to say it. Ergot. It's crazy scary. So, right on. So my next one this is a book that I've heard raved about a lot. Big fan of horror. Not necessarily the biggest Stephen King fan, but lots of people have mentioned his book. It's Stephen King on writing, and it's just him writing essays specifically about honing your craft of storytelling. Kind of got this for the same exact reason I got the Orson Scott Card one. I got this one first though because I've heard tremendous things about it, and he talks about the different styles of horror and specifically crafting horror stories and that kind of stuff, which I'm just a giant horror fan. And while I'm not a big fan of a lot of the stuff that he's done, it's hard to deny his success as a horror writer. And so I thought, why not learn from the best and sort of
I don't know if
learn some new tricks.
Fair to say you're not a big fan of a lot of the stuff that he's done.
Well,
he's done so many things.
That is true. I guess I should say...
he probably has as many books that I really like as any other author has, but he also has just so many books.
So
I like them all,
I'll clarify a little bit. I'm not a big fan of what he has put out recently, and I never chased down the Dark Tower books just because I never did.
The first one is really the best one.
Yeah, I love the first one. It's one of my favorite books ever. The second one's pretty good.
Middle and you're like, oh my god, what is happening? And then it starts to come up out of the middle, and you're like, oh, really, truly, what is happening?
Blame the Train did it for me.
And then it gets to the end, and you're like, oh, okay, all right. I'll let you have this one. You pulled it out at the end.
Right on. And then I'll just throw in the second one. It's Secret. It's the same along the exact same lines. It's Secret Windows. It's a continuation of On Writing, and it's by Stephen King as well. It's just more essays that he has written about storytelling and writing horror fiction and stuff. So.
You know what you can say about him that's great, though? He started a massive series and finished it.
True that. True that. Shots fired. Shots fired.
All right. So I have Scarlet Women, The Scandalous Lives of Courtesans, Concubines, and Royal Mistresses by Ian Graham. And very clearly, we all know why I was attracted to this. It's about powerful women and their sexual relationships with equally powerful men.
Right.
And I think it's going to be really good.
Cool. I think it's cool. It could be a fun thing to incorporate into like high adventure 7C stuff. Because I feel like when you say, as soon as you say courtesan, well, that's 7C. It's exactly what that is. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's that French royalty is what it brings to my mind.
I feel like all of us, myself included, even being a woman, I could do a better job of writing in-depth female NPCs.
Right.
And so I think this might be of interest for that.
Cool. Right on.
Because sex is never just about sex. Right? Okay, sometimes it's just about sex. There's a lot of other things too.
True.
Especially when you're talking about royal mistresses and concubines.
Right,
There's
right.
a huge power dynamic that's happening there too. So.
All right, so my next thing that I have here is I have two of them, so I'm just going to do one right now. It is Sci-Fi Invasion Classic Features 50 Movies. And I mentioned I got this at Half Price Books for $10 and there's 50 movies in it. So I mentioned I was trying to find a place to get a bunch of these campy sci-fi movies, sort of do some research to stay true to the genre and whatnot. So some of the movies, I'm just going to read some of the titles off the back of these because they are just absolutely amazing.
The highlights.
Yep. So we have, let's see here, Robo Vampire. That's 1988, starring Robin McKay. We have Morons from Outer Space. That's 1985, starring Jimmy Nail. Hyper Sapien, People from Another Star, 1986. Horror High, 1974.
That one doesn't sound very interesting.
Oh,
Horror High.
It's got that classic 70s.
The Atomic Brain. That sounds interesting.
984, Prisoner of the Future. Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe.
Hercules Against the Moon Men.
The Brother from Another Planet. 1964. The Creeping Terror, Death Machines, Escape from Galaxy 3, Evil Brain from Outer Space, Fugitive Alien. That's a great one. Galaxina.
Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women.
Welcome to Blood City. War of the Robots. Here you go. Trapped by Television.
But my personal favorite we've already mentioned, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
So I'm super excited for these. There should be lots of fun. I've watched 2 of them so far, 2 of the 100 movies. So I have to say, at 20 cents a movie, I think I came in. I definitely am going to get my entertainment value out of these. So
my last one is a graphic novel, and it is volume 4 of Sandman, which is called Season of Mists. And I realize I've arrived at the Sandman graphic novel series decades later than everyone else.
They're so good. So good.
And I'm going to share a confession with the world of our podcast right here. Because when I read the first volume of Sandman, I didn't really like it that much.
It was the preludes and...
No, and that's not even why. And it's because... It's because I didn't really read graphic novels.
Oh, okay.
Because I've gone back and reread that one and the other ones, and I really like it now. But the problem is I am a book reader, and I've never been a comic book reader. And there is a big difference. And so I read the first volume, and I just felt shorted. And I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Where's the rest of my story?
Yeah. like 50 pages go by and nothing is really
I was like, okay, these pictures are pretty. This is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I'm trying to enjoy myself, and it just ended. And but I haven't read anything yet. Mm-hmm. Nothing has happened.
Yeah.
And so I got kind of upset. But then I went on and I read some other graphic novels as well.
Right.
And kind of got into it. And then I actually started buying some of my own, and I started reading Injection, which is amazing, and Regression, and just like some really like darker kind of graphic novel stuff. And then Carrie got me Habibi. And it is actually an entire story collected in this book. So I got to experience in graphic novel form the entire thing front to back.
Right.
And I'd done The Walking Dead before, and it was kind of like whatever. But then I read this, and it was just absolutely beautiful. It is an amazing story. The art is wonderful. There's like this mixture of kind of math and science and symmetry on top of this really just deep, impactful story. And it was so, so good. And so I was like, okay, like I love Neil Gaiman. I love all of his books. Like, I know it's clearly not a problem with the story. It's probably something that I did wrong. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a second chance.
Well, I remember I got the first one for you because I was like, these are really good.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you'll enjoy this. I think I got it for you after Good Omens or one of those books. And I was like, these are really good. This is the end all be all story of comic books. And Yeah, so I just took a while to come around to it, but they're really good.
So then I read volume 2 and volume 3, and then I've started to pick them up at half price books as we go. And it's been a while since I picked this one up. I'm just kind of slowly working my way through it, but I'm probably about, a fourth of the way through this one. And actually an interesting tidbit at the end of the volume 3 one, I think is called Doll's House, I want to say.
I think so.
There is an interesting bit where he discusses how he lays out the story for the graphic novels, which I think is really cool and useful in kind of an RPG standpoint, where a lot of things are not necessarily a full story because you're kind of sharing the story creation, and it's a lot more at the moment instead of written down and planned out ahead of time, I guess. So anyway, there could be something interesting there. I haven't delved into it a whole lot because I'm not looking to write a graphic novel, but it's there if you're interested. So yeah, I'm working my way through Seasons of Mist.
Very cool. Well, this went a little longer than I expected it, but do you have anything else to add for a little round table here? Lots of inspiration, lots of games we've played and stuff, but
I think that's pretty much it. We finally watched the comic book movies that came out. Yeah, everybody's been talking about that.
Yeah.
Avengers, Infinity War, we did that. But more importantly, I finally got to see Black Panther, which when it came out in theaters, we were broke and I couldn't afford to go see it. And I was kind of sad about it. And it was really, really good. And it had a lot of like really powerful female characters, which I was pretty happy about. So
I enjoyed it. I thought there was a part where it kind of slowed down a little bit and it took a minute to find its stride. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. It was a good movie. I guess it made me because we saw the Infinity Gauntlet or Infinity War movie first, so that a few things made a little more sense after seeing Black Panther or whatever. But so I enjoyed them both. But I gotta say I think I'm a little bit tired of comic book movies, and I'm seeing them now more out of a sense of obligation than out of actual interest. So I don't know. I go back and forth about it because I really enjoyed Doctor Strange. I really, really like Guardians of the Galaxy, but some of the other ones I'm just like, well, I suppose I probably have to go see this because that's what you do is you go see these movies, but that's all good. So I'm still having fun. It's not that they're bad. It's just I'm a little tired of comic book movies, I guess. Can't we make an actual good movie that isn't with superheroes now?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go see it though.
True story. That's a fair assessment. So, alrighty, well, quick Gonna Geek promo before we get out of here. So, All Things Good and Nerdy, episode 314, Willie Nelson for president. On the next Arrested Development, Willie decides to run for president with a campaign that banks on people's bad choices and shame. Chris tries to be an adult and to do some shopping, only to be distracted by Pokemon Go, which is a pretty cool game. Backman's attempt to be a salty sailor are sidelined by his love of comics when unexpectedly Teen Titans pops up in his Hulu feed. Despite the poor animation, Bachman watches the movie. So that's All Things Good and Nerdy, episode 314, and you can find them on the Gonna Geek Network. I think that'll do it for us this week. Sorry we missed you guys last week, but we had some real world things happen and whatever, and backpacking and too many miles and not enough water and travel and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so we are back on our normal release schedule, so we will see you guys next week. And don't forget to check out our upcoming episodes of Night Witches. Those release every other Friday. And remember, if you're in the Terre Haute area on June 16th from 5 to 9, we will be having our second Indie RPG Day at Game on South 7th Street in Terre Haute. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. If not, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. This has been an episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at Incompetech.com. You can support us at Patreon.com/JustOneMoreFix or follow us on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix.